Can you hear me back there? Good evening. I'd like to call the meeting to order and welcome everyone that takes their personal time to get involved and to express their opinions and passions. Commissioners, I'd especially want to say I appreciate your time and your service to the community. To be clear to everyone, there has not been a government coup or overthrow in Newton County. Once it was determined that there would not be a 2016 budget action tonight, the chairman chose to go on a short family vacation. Upon his return, I'm sure he will schedule fiscal 2016 budget meetings. Again, I stress there will not be 2016 budget actions tonight. Possibly and probably only commissioner comments related to that topic. Also, as a reminder, please silence your phones. The thought of the day is the price of greatness is responsibility, from Winston Churchill. Now for the invocation, I'd like to introduce to the board and the community Pastor Tom Lee, and I hope he has a special emphasis on the minds and hearts of our community's leadership, keeping in mind that our leadership is not only elected, teachers, parents, fathers, mothers, big brothers, preachers are all our leaders, and our community needs their prayer.
Could I make a comment real quick before we do the prayer?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, excuse me just a minute, Pastor. Just want everybody to remember Lansden O'Connor, the sheriff of Montgomery County, who was killed early this morning down in South Georgia. 42 years old, a wife and 4 children. He was killed in an automobile chase when his cruiser wrecked. Lansden O'Connor, the sheriff of Montgomery County. If you could remember him, I'd appreciate it, Sheriff.
Let's pray together. Father, we come together tonight and we thank you so much for this opportunity to meet together and discuss the needs and concerns of the people of Newton County. Father, we thank you for each of these elected officials, for the service they bring to our county. We pray for leadership and direction in their lives and the work that they're doing, because the decisions that they make as a board not only affect this generation, but generations to come. Father, we pray for this sheriff that was killed this morning. We pray for Lance and his family. We pray, Father, for this community that's been affected. We know, Father, that there is violence and evil all around us. We pray for protection of not only our sheriffs here, our community firemen, volunteers that work and serve this community in many different facets. We just pray for their protection tonight as well. And Father, again, we thank you for the concerned citizens that are here tonight, those that love Newton County and concerned about the things that are going on and are involved in our community as well. Father, I pray together with unity we can be successful as a county and we move forward doing great things together. Father, again, thank you for your presence here tonight. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor Lee. Next up for the pledge, I'd like to introduce Ms. Laura Bertram. She does an incredible job as the director of the Newton County Community Partnership. Everyone. Real quick, under Vice Chairman comments, I'd like to just toss out a couple of announcements to the community. We do not have a scheduled meeting for July the 7th. I believe that the board's calendar was approved back in January, maybe December, and there is no standing meeting for July 7th. However, as I said earlier, I do expect the chairman, upon his return, to post the proper meetings related to the fiscal 16 budget. So stay tuned on those dates. I do not have those dates. Along with that budget, I'd like to, from the District 5 chair personally, and praise Michelle Kelly and her team as we have worked through this budget cycle. It has been quite a challenge, and she has been incredibly competent, incredibly patient with the political elected body, and I certainly appreciate her. Second announcement is the Salem Campground meeting dates have been announced as July the 10th through July the 17th. They'll have morning services at 10:45, p.m. services at 7:45. Our board has a standing special invitation for the Sunday night, July 12th, as usual. If there's a RSVP, please supply those to Miss Jackie as soon as possible so that she can get Mr. Ramsey, Mayor Ramsey. Ma'am? No later than July 3rd. Okay, thank you. Also, as a reminder, as we approach the 4th of July and the celebrations of our freedoms that we have here in America, I'd like to compliment the local festivities. City of Oxford is having their normal annual AM parade. I'm not sure what time that is. It will be published soon. Usually 10, Commissioner Douglas says. In the evening hours, the cities of Covington and Porterdale will have their festivals, family fun and fireworks. Please enjoy, celebrate, and be safe. Next, it's quite an honor for me tonight. We've got a special guest in-house. Ezell Brown Jr. is going to come before us and give us a short presentation on our parks. He has been an intern for the chairman's office for a short period of time during his college summer visit back home. He is Sheriff Ezell Brown's son. I think I owe Mr. Brown an apology. I think he goes by the second and not junior, so Ezell Brown the second. Mother's Janice Brown. He's 22 years old. He attends A&M University in Alabama studying arts, and he's got a short presentation.
Good afternoon. As he said, I'm an art major, so part of being an artist, I do photography as well. So with this presentation, you'll see a few of the photos that I took of some of the recreational spots as well as a historic location as well. Here's Chimney Park. Actually, I was unaware of its location. It's right behind the library, and if you go out there, you see it's pretty interesting. It's like a nature walk kind of situation. Very good to bring family, small children. Some more shots. Unfortunately, when I was out there, I didn't see any fairy houses, but directions to make them if you're interested. There's some little information, first Saturday in May, and also there's a Christmas kind of program that goes on during December. Here's Lake Varner. I took this picture right here. You can go fishing out there. It's a cookout area. You can go park. It's a swing set over by the other side, place where you can dock your boat, ride around a little bit. Here inside of Turner Lake, it's a senior service center right here, and then nice gym inside, very nice. It's another picture of Turner Lake right here. Yeah, but up here, there's City Pond Park right there, and it's a nice playground that you have here at the Miracle Field. It's recently been built not too long ago. Very, very nice. Here we have Factory Shoals Recreational Park. When I went out here, I was a little upset because it's like no one was out there, and it seemed like no one had been out there. And it's plenty of spots to, sit down, have a picnic, chill out for your day, maybe have lunch by yourself, with the family, with a friend. Here's Gaither's Plantation. When I went out here, it was very interesting because it was almost like I wasn't in Covington anymore. I wasn't in Newton County anymore. It was like I was in another place. It was very peaceful, very beautiful to just see and be there. It's also available for weddings as well and other events. Here's Yellow River Water Trail. And they have something where you can actually go on the ride in the river with your boat. probably have to go to the website for pricing, but it's not that expensive. And it's a few trails out here as well. It's very good to exercise and become one with nature. You know, it's plenty of times where everybody says, oh, I don't have anything to do, when all you have to do is just go outside. Trail at Turner Lake, Trail at Lake Varner, Oxford Trail, Yellow River Trail, so many trails. As well as this one right here, Charlie Elliott Center. So as you can see, it's a whole lot of things that you can do right here in your own city. Instead of leaving or not even being active, you can walk out your door and there's plenty to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Okay, Commissioners, moving on to the agenda. After reviewing the Commissioner Douglas.
Mr. Chairman, if could I have a point of personal privilege just for a moment?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to read a statement I prepared on an issue of importance in the community, and I think something that needs to be said. Several months ago, we appointed a committee of prominent residents to take a look at our landfill and come back to us with recommendations on how to protect the residents living around that area and stop the hemorrhaging of taxpayer dollars at the same time. With Green Hill P3 waiting in the wings, we felt it was imperative that we find solutions to the problems we faced. Once we were thoroughly briefed on the Green Hill P3 proposal, it became clear that they had big plans for our county landfill. Then we learned what those big plans are. A regional landfill taking in many times the current level of garbage. And with that clarification, many citizens raised objections for a number of reasons. We were told that the Yellow River would be endangered, that the residents of the area could not stand a mountain of trash in their backyards, that the city of Porterdale would be adversely affected by the high volume of trucks coming and going from outside Newton County to the landfill. Additionally, there were other reasons presented why this regional landfill would be a bad idea for Newton County. All of these concerns were right on target. After long thought, listening to citizens and examining the issues, I've decided not to support keeping Green Hill P3 in consideration. I believe it is time for us to cut the cord with them and move on to a good local solution to our landfill. I would ask that the Commission consider placing on the next agenda a vote, an up or down vote, on whether we should move forward with or without Green Hill P3. I think it's time for our citizens to know where we all stand on this issue. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Douglas. Anyone else? Related to the consent agenda, is there an item that anyone would like to remove, add, or adjust before we make the vote? Commissioner Henderson, do you want to introduce your senior services appointee prior to the vote?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to say that it has been a while since we had been asked to reappoint somebody to the Senior Service Board, Senior Citizen Board over at Turner Lake. And, you know, and most time when I appoint somebody or go out and look for an appointment, I just don't go out and just find just anybody, or I listen to what my constituents are relaying to me. And so what the biggest majority of my constituents told me that they would like for Miss Dorothy Smith, should I say Reverend Dorothy Smith, to be our appointment. And we heard them, and she is our appointment to the Senior Citizen Board.
Thank you, Commissioner Henderson. Does anyone else have a comment on the consent agenda? What's the pleasure of the board? All in favor? Thank you. Item number 6, Administrative Services, the monthly financial report. Michelle Kelly, We'll entertain any questions that the board may have. I'd like to tell the citizens that the budget process did not do this to Ms. Kelly. A 5K, I believe, right? Is that? Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Kelly.
Okay, y'all have your budget reports. That first comparison sheet shows where each department stands. We should be at 91.67%. As a whole, we're at 89%. Revenues, total taxes stand at 91.9. License and permits at 99.3. Charges for services, 88.8. Does anybody have any questions on? We go down to our expenditures, our total personal services, 90.9. Purchase contracted services, 89%. That next group is the solid waste Fund 540 budget. And then we have the Cornish Creek budget, total revenues, total expenses. Does anybody have any questions?
No questions from the board? Sorry. Commissioner Schultz?
No questions. I was just going to move to approve the financial report.
All in favor? Sorry about that. The check register, if the board would be so inclined, can we table that until the next meeting? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Kelly. Oh, I'm sorry. All in favor? Okay. Next on the list, item number 8 is the intergovernmental agreement between the City of Covington and the Union County Board of Commissioners. I don't think Donna Morrison is here. Ms. Carter?
Okay. This agreement deals with the County Board of Elections handling the election process for the City of Covington. This has happened for a number of years. I think when they went back to see the origin of the agreement, where this practice started, there no agreement could be found. So this is just formalizing a practice that's taken place for a number of years that'll put an agreement in place for the upcoming City of Covington elections. Are there any questions?
What's the pleasure of the board? Do we have a motion? All in favor? Thank you. Item number 9, the intergovernmental agreement for Lloyd Kerr. Do you mind, Mr. Kerr?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening. What you have before you is a proposal for an inspection aid agreement between the county and the City of Covington. The recent retirement of Bob Cart brought to our attention that we did not have such an agreement in place. This would allow us to avail ourselves of some assistance from the city in the event we became shorthanded or because in emergency situations. Likewise, the city will benefit from the same thing. I'm requesting that you consider this tonight and recommending that you approve it. And I have requested to be placed on the city council agenda for July the 6th for their consideration. The city manager is aware, the head of the planning and zoning department is also aware of this, as well as their inspectors. So.
Does the board have any questions? Can we get a motion? Any comments? All approved? The vote, please. All in favor? Sorry. Huh? All opposed? I'm sorry. Didn't expect that. I'm sorry, Mr. Stokes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Kerr. Sorry, there's a typo on some of my paperwork. Item number 9, the BOC approval of R 061615. Would Ms. Carter mind running through and telling us?
Sure. This is just, since the fiscal year 16 budget is not prepared to be adopted yet, this is a resolution that will allow government operations to continue under the current budget until such time as the fiscal year 2016 budget is adopted. It just lets business continue so that employees get paid and business can be carried out by the county until that budget is approved.
What's the pleasure of the board? Can we get a motion?
Second.
This may be a question for legal. The hearing for public zoning cannot start till 7:30.
Correct.
So should we pause for 5 minutes? I tell you what. Let's skip down to commissioner comments. Does anyone? You guys like to go ahead and start commissioner comments? Anyone?
To go ahead and commission.
Absolutely. I think that's going to take. I think that's going to take a while, and we've got about 6 minutes. So, Mr. Schultz.
Thank you, Vice Chairman. Over the past couple of weeks or the past few months, there have been many comments made regarding the millage rate. Since I made the motion in 2013, I would like to read my statement from July 16, 2013. I feel it is important that we discuss the facts and not hearsay. So bear with me as I read that statement from July 16, 2013. I've been on the Board of Commissioners for 5 years, and every year we had to make deep cuts in the budget due to a declining tax digest. In 2013, we were operating with $10 million less than when I took office. We asked our department heads every year for major budget cuts that fall largely on the backs of county employees who themselves pay taxes and try to put food on the table. All citizens, including those on the board, want the assurance that we will have safe water, safe roads, bridges, ports, law enforcement, fire, emergency protection, solid waste management, recreational opportunities, and we want the assurance that those services will be provided efficiently and cost-effectively. What we need is a long-term strategic plan that will ensure financial solvency into the future, lessen the tax burden on private property owners, find government efficiencies across service delivery parameters, develop new revenue streams, including grants from other funders, and boost economic development through new investment and better paying jobs. Citizen input will be vital to this strategic planning process. As painful as it was at that time, I supported the rollback millage rate. We would not have to dip into our reserves, which would negatively affect our credit rating and borrowing costs. I moved to adopt the millage rate of 11.54 as advertised in the Covington News and printed in the board book, with the understanding that this board would begin a strategic budget planning process with the goal of lowering the millage rate within 2 years. Last year, and please note that statement was to lower the millage rate within 2 years. Last year, we successfully were able to lower the millage rate from 11.54 to 11.225. And I subsequently made these remarks. Everyone spent a lot of hard work and time over the course of the year to look at ways to improve the health of our organization. We started with a strategic planning process, but I didn't think our work was over. I was happy to reduce the millage rate last year, but I didn't think any of us wanted to stay there. I think we need to continue the strategic planning process so that we can ultimately be where we want to be. With that, we have to make sure we are providing for the services of our county. Now, as I read these two statements, there are three recurring themes that become evident. The provision of a strategic plan is important for our success. This process was helpful in our ability to lower the millage rate last year. Please note that a slow recovery of our tax digest has compounded our ability to rebound from the declining tax values and impedes our ability to make significant progress. The primary responsibility of our government is to provide services. During the strategic planning process we began in 2013, this board identified as its priorities purchasing and implementing a new financial software. I believe all of us can agree that this was one of the best purchases we made. It has provided us the tool we need to accurately track our budgets and expenditures. It has illuminated for us glaring deficiencies in our previous system, and with this current budget process, we are closer to a true picture of our financial outlook. Another priority was to strengthen our organization. We have dedicated employees. For far too long, they bore the brunt of our economic hardship. But we have now restored their furlough days and propose an increase to begin in January. Meanwhile, we have provided a competitive wage for our public safety employees. I know I appreciate every time they risk their lives for my safety, and I imagine the remaining 100,000 plus citizens feel the same. We pledged to address our solid waste management and our government structure, and with the aid of our Citizens Committee, we should have recommendations soon. We also have increased our transparency, and we continue to make strides in this category. In closing, I want to reassure the public that this board takes the fiduciary responsibility of balancing a budget very seriously. Commissioner Maddox and I spent another hour and a half this morning with Michelle Kelly sifting through the budget requests for any waste. After careful scrutiny, I believe a budget not to exceed $53,700,000 is best for providing the services necessary to operate Newton County efficiently. Now, that being said, we will continue to look for ways to make sure that we have the most accurate numbers possible for that amount of money that we are identifying as our budget. Once we have the final digest numbers next week, we will be in a position to accurately determine the exact millage rate. There's no question that the millage will increase for FY 2016. The only way to responsibly lower the millage is to continue to work together through the citizen engagement we've begun, and I strongly encourage that we revisit and update the strategic plan as soon as possible. Thank you, Vice Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Schultz. Does another commissioner want to? Okay. 7:30. We'd like to open the zoning public hearing segment of the meeting for the applicant and those in favor of the petition are allowed 10 minutes to address the board. In addition, 10 minutes are allowed for those in opposition to the petition. This 10-minute allotment does not include a response to any Q&A with the commission members. The first item up, Lloyd.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First item on the agenda tonight is petition NTL 15-000194, and this is located in District 3. The acreage is 0.55 acres, and the request is to construct a 110-foot monopole telecommunications support tower. This picture that you're looking at now identifies the subject parcel that is highlighted with the green border, and this is at the just north of the intersection of Brown Bridge Road and Crowell Road. This picture shows you the zoning. The zoning on the property is CH, and you can see the surrounding zonings as well. The future land use shows a commercial, this is in Tier 2 of the Almond Overlay, so it will be subject to any requirements there. This is the picture of the site looking directly from Crowell Road to the site, and this is the site plan that was submitted to us by the applicant. And this item, I will note that this item was tabled from your last meeting in order to for the applicant to provide some additional information. And also the Planning Commission did recommend approval with staff conditions. Thank you.
Since we have already had a true public hearing on this on May the 19th and this was tabled, there's not a legal requirement unless does the applicant intend to present tonight or? Okay. Please come forward. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jenna Lee with Calvin Sanders.
Excuse me one moment. I think we need to time this, right, to allow for the opposition.
Yes, and then we'll need to allow the opposition equal time to respond.
Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Jenna Lee with Calvin Sanders, and I'm here on behalf of Verizon Wireless. As Mr. Kerr noted, we are seeking a conditional use permit to allow for the construction and operation of a monopole tower at this site. And this evening, we just wanted to quickly address some of the issues that were raised at last month's meeting. Let me catch up with myself. The three issues primarily were raised. So there's safety, site location, and potential visual impacts. First, with regard to safety, we provided to the county a detailed structural analysis, including failure characteristics and calculations for the proposed monopole tower. And these calculations indicate that the tower is designed to collapse upon itself within a radius equal to 1/3 of the tower height, or approximately 33 feet. And Newton County telecommunications consultant has thoroughly reviewed our design calculations and analysis and independently determined that the tower meets all safety standards of the county and that the setbacks to adjacent property lines and Crawl Road are sufficient to safely contain any debris in the very unlikely event of tower failure. And as we've mentioned before at the previous hearings, tower failure is extremely rare. Verizon's team of engineers they're only aware of 2 failures, and in both of those instances, the monopole tower did not collapse. It's designed to bend upon itself, and in one of those instances, I believe it was a direct tornado hit, and the tower bent. In the second instance, a welder doing some modification to the tower caught the tower on fire, and it bent, but it did not collapse. So again, we just wanted to stress, and I have just a copy or an image here of the report from our professional engineer indicating that the tower is designed to collapse within itself and within a radius equal to 33 feet, which is less than the setback to all property lines and Crawl Road. And lastly, with regard to safety, we just wanted to stress again that the proposed tower location does not pose any threat to any structures or nearby residential uses. The nearest residential structure is more than 650 feet away. And so again, the setbacks are sufficient to contain the tower in the unlikely event of failure. And second, at the last meeting, there was some concerns regarding this site and how we arrived at this location. So we wanted to quickly go over the alternative sites that we reviewed to address the service issues identified in this search area. Verizon evaluated 6 additional sites in addition to this location on Crawl Road. And Verizon's radio frequency engineers and site acquisition specialists determined that each of those sites were not adequate in addressing the needs in this area. And here's a shows locations of those 6 sites that we evaluated. You'll see the site that we selected is indicated with the green star. I'm going to quickly just give you an overview of why each of these 6 sites were not adequate in addressing the needs. I'll leave the map up just so you can see which ones I'm referencing. So the first site listed here, number 1, is located just north of the subject property that we proposed at 55 Coral Road. And we determined that this property was not actually buildable due to a septic field and septic easements that run across the back of the property. The second one, located on the map just north on Coral Road as well, is the Elks Lodge property. And the radio frequency engineers determined in order to meet the service needs at this location, it would require a tower of at least 200 feet above ground level, which would also be required to have lighting under FAA regulations. The third location, which is the Oaks Golf Course, is located across the street on Coral Road. This one was not suitable and did not meet the identified service needs in this area either. And Verizon evaluated the site and was not able to identify a location on that property that would meet needs and also meet the needs of the property owner. Let's see, the fourth site, further north on Coral Road, is Newton High School. And this one was just too far north of the identified search ring to address any of the service needs in this area. The fifth site is on Brownbridge Road, and this is owned by the Water and Sewer Authority. And to place a tower at this location to address the needs in the search ring, the tower would have to be at least 275 feet, would also require lighting, and would put us closer to residential neighborhoods, as you can see to the west and south of that site. And finally, the sixth location we evaluated was the Georgia Power substation that's located on Brownbridge Road. And we reached out to Georgia Power, and they reviewed the site as well and determined that this site there's an existing structure on that site, I should add, and that structure is not a candidate for antenna co-location because of its relationship and orientation on the property close to the substation equipment. It wouldn't be suitable for a telecommunications co-location. Okay, so moving on to the third issue that came up at the last meeting. There were some concerns expressed regarding the visual impact at this location. And to address these concerns, Verizon went above and beyond the Almond Road Overlay District requirements, and we proposed an enhanced landscape and fencing plan that includes more mature trees and a decorative fence around Coral Road. And I believe there's also sidewalk improvements that are required under the overlay district. So this landscaping plan is intended to minimize the visual impact from Coral Road. We also, just to get a clearer picture and understanding of the other cost structures that are in this area, we did a survey of the other structures, and as you can see on the table of heights and median the height above sea level, that there's a range, and the proposed tower of 100 feet is comparable to the heights of these other transmission lines and power poles. And lastly, we have a photo simulation of what the site will look like with the proposed landscape plan and decorative fence. And again, we just want to reiterate that we believe that this is the best location for the proposed tower. It will significantly enhance service to residents and businesses in this area. And Verizon is proposing the shortest possible tower height to address those needs in this area. The property is appropriately zoned for the monopole, and as we just showed, there are multiple other tall structures already existing in this area. We've considered multiple alternatives, none of which provide adequate service improvements in the identified search ring, and we've screened the proposed tower property to minimize any visual impacts on Coral Road. The staff's review of the application has been extremely thorough, as well as the telecommunications consultant. And as Mr. Kerr noted, the Planning Commission recommended approval, and we respectfully request that you approve this application. information. Thank you. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Does the board have any questions or comments at this time? Thank you, Ms. Lee.
Thank you.
Ms. Lee, is that right? Yes. Okay, thank you. Did we hit the required?
Yeah, that presentation was 8 minutes, so we can open it up for 8 minutes for opposition.
Is there anyone opposed? Mr. Taylor?
I'll address the chair because that's what the ordinance says we're supposed to do, is address the chair. Yes, I'm still against this ordinance. So if a tornado comes through and hit that cell tower, it's going to just drop straight down. It's not going to go over on Crowell Road. Is that what we're hearing? And second, are we not going to bend over? Yeah, okay. And there has been some issues. I don't think she said it's 100% perfect, that there's not going to be any safety issues with the cell tower, right? There has been some bending. If I recall, we've got plans to widen Crowell Road and to widen Brown Bridge Road. Will we have to buy the cell tower when we widen the road? Will it bring it closer? Will it bring it closer to the roads? But the main thing I object to is this. Why do we have zoning ordinance? This is a variance, right? Y'all did, it's not a variance for y'all, but it was a variance when we went there. Why? We keep having these cell tower variances. Why don't we fix our zone? Why don't we fix the zone to what we are going to accept for cell tower? So I am against this. I know you're going to vote it in. I would never vote it in. With the understanding that a lady came here a few months ago, and she didn't even get a second hearing, Mr. Chairman. Is that correct? She was denied. We had a second hearing for her. And the chairman is not here tonight. Would not even let her get up here and have her say so on the second hearing. And I'm sticking up for that lady, because I think she was done wrong. And if we've got an ordinance that says we've got to wait 6 months to fix that for that lady, that is ridiculous. Y'all should, if you pass this tonight, you should go to her house and tell her to come here in the next meeting and make it fair with her. Because we've got to start being fair. I'm not a lawyer, but if we're going to pass one every time a lawyer steps it up here, regardless, what that lady was wanting had nothing to do with safety, right? I mean, she wasn't going to hurt anybody. And that's all I got. I just think you need to start being fair with your zone.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor. Mr. Buckner?
Thomas Buckner, 650 Polita Drive. I've only got about 2 questions. One, why do we need 6 towers in one little area like this? You got a tower down at on 36. You don't have those 6 or 8 towers down there in a bunch. Why do you need them up there on Brown Bridge? The other question is, how much does a person make if the tower's on their property? How much in revenue do they collect? I mean, is that you got one of their property, how much do you collect?
I don't have one on my property.
You got one on the golf course?
No, I don't.
What about that is showing of it, and by that picture up there, it's on the golf course.
That was one of the sites that was examined.
Oh, you mean them towers ain't up there?
No,
There's somebody up there.
no.
Those are sites that a private company explored as alternative sites.
Oh, then I'm the wrong person.
Thank you, Mr. Buckner. As always, thank you, Mr. Buckner. Is there anyone else in opposition? This time we will close this portion of the public hearing. Does the board have any comments or questions? Do we have them? Sorry, Mr. Douglas?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let me just say that I agree with a lot of what Dennis said. We were quick to deny variance to somebody that wanted to park a truck in their driveway and try to earn a living. Now we want to go ahead and approve this variance because we've got, as Clark Howard would say, mega company here, mega communications company in play here, Verizon, and they do a great job. I don't happen to have Verizon, but they do a great job. And mega law firm, Troutman Sanders, one of the best law firms in Atlanta, and they do a great job in what they do. It's hard for me to agree to this. If we want to let somebody park a dadgum truck in their driveway and earn a living, why are we going to let mega company and mega law firm come in here and do something that we won't let average Joe do? So I know, those are rhetorical questions. I know the answer already, but I intend to vote against this. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Douglas. Any other comments? Commissioner Schultz?
Thank you, Mr. Maddox. Well, as Ms. Lee explained at the last zoning meeting, I had concerns, and she's aptly addressed those concerns. I will say that I spent the last month with the attorneys from Troutman Sanders and the engineers looking at the alternative sites. We proposed a site that was at Newton High School, that was outside the service area. We proposed a site at the Newton County Water and Sewer Authority. The Water and Sewer Authority was quite excited about the possibility of that site, but it was too high and too close to a residential area. We proposed the Georgia Power site where there's an existing monopole. I went out and took pictures of the monopole. But Georgia Power refused to have that co-located on their site. A lot of times attorneys get a bad reputation, but I do want to thank the patience of Troutman Sanders because I really pushed on this to make sure that we had explored all the alternative sites. My business is across the street from this monopole, so I will see it every day I go to my business. It is of greatest concern to me that the safety of the citizens that use that road are protected. So I asked them to make sure that they provided as much information as they could to give us the reassurance that we needed. That being said, I move that we approve this conditional use permit NTL 15-000194 based on the following recommended conditions. And because this is a conditional use permit, I will read the recommended conditions, so bear with me if they're long. If this petition is approved by the Board of Commissioners, it should be approved for the conditional use permit for a telecommunication tower, conditional subject to the owner's agreement to the following enumerated conditions. Where these conditions conflict with the stipulations and offerings contained in the letter of intent, these conditions shall supersede unless specifically stipulated by the Board of Commissioners. To the owner's agreement to restrict the use of the leased area of the subject property as follows. A telecommunications tower. B, comply with the standards of section 510-630 of the Newton County Zoning Ordinance as applicable. 2, to the owner's agreement to abide by the following. A, to the site plan and legal description received by the Department of Planning and Development on February 10, 2015, and the revised site plan on April 28, 2015. Said site plan is conceptual only and must meet or exceed the requirements of the zoning ordinance and these conditions prior to the approval of a land disturbance permit. Unless otherwise noted herein, compliance with all conditions shall be in place prior to the issuance of the first certificate of occupancy. To the owner's agreement to abide by the following development standards. A, landscaping plan meeting the requirements of the element overlay to be approved by the county landscape architecture. Fencing per the approval of the Development Services Director. Mechanicals to be screened from view at 100% spatial coverage, minimum of 2 to 4 rows reaching a height of 6 feet in 2 years and 75% evergreen. The depth of the landscape strip around the 3 sides not facing the public road, Crowell Road, will depend on what it will take to meet the requirement. If a 10-foot strip, as indicated on the site plan, is sufficient, then it is acceptable. 3, 6-foot sidewalk along Crowell Road for the length of the area you are leasing abutting the road with a 20-foot landscape strip from the back of the sidewalk is required along the road frontage. B, telecommunications towers shall be a monopole design. C, maximum height of tower to be 110 feet. D, provide for at least 3 antennas. E, monopoles shall accommodate equipment for potential use by Newton County for E911 and other emergency services below the 3rd antenna.
We have a motion and a second. Comments?
Let me just summarize real quick what I said one more time before we vote on this thing. On this hand, you've got a hard-working, tax-paying, blue-collar family in Newton County that minds their own business, gets up in the morning, goes to work, and in the afternoon comes home again. We said no to them. On this side, we have Verizon Wireless and Troutman Sanders come rolling in here, and we say, well, yes, sir, buddy, to them. Now, something is wrong with this picture. Are we going to side with the people of this county that pay our taxes and pay our salaries and are going to pay those higher millage rates that we talked about earlier? Or are we going to, every time somebody from a big law firm or a big company in Atlanta comes down here and says, hey, if we got a deal for you, we're going to let them have their way? I just want us to think before we vote. Are we going with the working people of Newton County, or are we going with these folks from outside?
Well said, Mr. Douglas. Commissioner Douglas. Any other comments? We got a motion. We got a second. All in favor? All opposed? Thank you. I'd like to open up the next public hearing for.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The next petition is conditional use permit 15-000001. This property is located in District 1 at 155 Hopewell Church Road. The zoning on the property is AR, agricultural residential. It's a 9-acre tract. And this request is to establish a school in a place of worship. The Planning Commission did recommend approval of the petition with certain staff conditions. And you'll see this picture identifies the subject parcel, and the boundaries are outlined in red. And the location of the parcel is between Georgia Highway 81 and Hopewell Church Road. The zoning on the property is agricultural residential. This is a close-up of the property, a little closer aerial view of the property. And you can see the church. And you can see the church property there, along with all of the buildings that are associated with it, as well as the parking lot and the cemetery. And again, this is a little closer view of the church again. Yes, sir, that's part of the parcel. It's It's actually,
I asked if they were going to tear down that house.
no,
They
sir,
are?
not to my knowledge, no.
Where's the school going?
The school will be located in the existing classroom building. It's my understanding that the population of the school will be small to begin with, and so they'll be able to house the students there as the school grows.
The zoning says not more than 35 students.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
And so it's no new building, they're just going to be in that building right there?
It's, to my understanding, that's correct, but
So why is this
Mr.
other property?
But there are members of the church who are here that could probably answer those questions.
Why is this other property outlined on the west side?
Because that property is part of the parcel. Those two parcels are locked together. It just so happens that the parcel is bisected by Hopewell Church Road.
Thank you.
Does the board have any more questions of Mr. Kerr? Thank you for the presentation.
Thank you.
I think now I'm supposed to open up the actual public hearing. Is the applicant present? Please come state your name.
Good evening. I'm John Bice. I'm one of the elders and trustees of Hopewell, speaking on behalf of the church. Our church next month celebrated its 185th anniversary. Our church will be celebrating its 185th anniversary next month. Over a century ago, we had a small school here. It served the community. It was prior to the consolidation of schools in Newton County. There was a one-room schoolhouse there and served very adequately the families until the schools were consolidated. We have a group of people in our church today who some homeschool, some have their children in the public schools, some are in private schools, but we have several that we got together, brainstorming, thought it would be nice to try to reconstitute a school here on a very small, limited basis. Our plans were, and still are, to have something really limited. 12 students would be the most we would anticipate right now, but we worked up a couple of budgets, one with 12 students, one with 24. When we sat down with the planning department, actually the number of 35 was suggested by them because just as a looking ahead for years and for growth that might occur. The sanctuary there has been in existence since about 1855. Directly behind it's educational building that's been there since the 1950s. It has roughly 2,680 square feet. We think that would be more than adequate to start out with kindergarten through possibly 6th grade with, again, hopefully as many as 12 students, but we're not even that ambitious. We'd be happy to have half that number starting out because, again, this is an interest of families in the church. We would have one teacher, one teacher's aide, an administrator there. We would meet roughly from 9 a.m. to 12 or 1 p.m. and then have other activities either on site or outside for the students. This would be just a hands-on learning environment. The property across the road, we have 9 acres there, and then we have a couple of other tracts that are not in this particular parcel. That's our manse across the road. That's where our pastor lives. We don't have any intention of tearing that down. One of the neighbors had some concerns about possibly a play area in front of his daughter's residence there. We gladly stipulated there would be no playground across there. He also had concerns about the traffic on the road. We have roughly on a Sunday morning 60 to 90 people that attend our worship service. We have one 11 a.m. service, Sunday school beginning at 10 a.m. There's not any traffic problems there currently. We have a Wednesday night Bible study that meets for an hour and a half. But we gladly, because of concerns of the neighbor, said that if we reach a point where we exceed an enrollment of 12, we would stipulate in a contract that any parents would have to sign that they would use this driveway directly off of Highway 81. Hopewell Church Road used to be old Highway 81. And then I don't know when this occurred, probably back in the early part of the 20th century when 81 was straightened and paved. Then old 81 here became Hopewell Church Road, so it has two means of ingress and egress off of Hopewell Church Road as well as that driveway off of 81. Again, we don't have any plans to expand that current educational building. We recognize that if we do in the future, we'd have to come back here and submit site plans and show whatever we would propose for the future. Right now, we just want to serve the families in our church and the community. That answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Bice. Certainly recognize you guys are doing something right. 185 years. That's
Right. Yep.
That's quite impressive. Commissioner Douglas?
Before I make my comment, I would just note for the record that's about the same age as Mount Pleasant, where I go to church. So I don't know which was the chicken or the egg came first there, but
July 25th, 1830.
there you go. Lloyd, Lloyd, I have a question for you. Since 35 students is listed on here as the max, what happens if they wanted to have 36 students? Will they have to come back to us?
Yes, so they'd have to modify this condition.
Okay. That was all I had.
Any other questions from the board? Thank you, Mr. Bice. Have we hit the 10-minute? Is there anyone else for this petition?
There's 5 minutes remaining if anyone wants to speak in favor.
I'm sorry, is there anyone else in favor? Are you in favor of the petition?
I'm the neighbor he referenced. The property line, right, go up a little bit, right there. That's very misleading on the county map. It should be down within 10 feet of that driveway. The property I own is behind that property, right there. And I was the one that had concerns originally about the playground. I had concerns about the traffic. Mr. Bice and myself worked out an agreement. I'm now for it. I urge you to pass his request and allow the school, even though it'll be on the property next to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Applewhite. Are there anyone else in favor of the petition? Okay, thank you. We will close out this portion of the hearing. Is there anyone in opposition of the petition? Is there anyone in opposition of the petition? We will close out the opposition portion of the public hearing. What's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve case number CUP 15 what was that, 5-0-1, proposed use for a school K-12, private school K-12 around the Hopewell Presbyterian Church. It is Presbyterian, right? Yeah, okay. I didn't want to say that if it was, what's that? I didn't want to say Baptist, I'm sorry, So I move for approval.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman. I'm sorry, Mr. Douglas, I didn't hear if your motion included the conditions that were...
Including the conditions stated.
Thank you,
Yes.
sir.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. Mr. Kerr, can you present for the next item?
Thank you. This next petition is rezoning petition 15-000208. Property is located at 139 Cedar Lane in District 1. The total acreage of the property is 25.115 acres. and the request is to rezone from agricultural to RE, rural estates, and the intent is to subdivide the property into 3 separate tracts. The picture that you see here is the subject parcel outlined in red. The small parcel in the center of that parcel is a cemetery, and as you know, cemeteries in this county are deeded to themselves, and so that's why that is cut out like that. This is the future land use map. Property is identified as part of a development node, and again, this is the zoning. You see it's agricultural, and just the surrounding zonings there toward the residential zone. And again, this is an overview map showing the parcel. This is a proposed subdivision of the parcel, 11.94 acres, I believe 8.22 and 5.65. The Planning Commission did recommend approval with a condition that this not be subdivided into more than 4 tracts. I believe that was, no, I'm sorry, to restrict the total number of lots not to exceed 4. That's correct.
Thank you, Mr. Kerr. Does the board have any questions of Mr. Kerr? At this time, we will open up, is the petitioner here? At this point, we will open up the segment of the public hearing for anyone in favor of the petition. With no one, we will close this segment of the public hearing. Is there anyone opposed to this petition?
I'll be opposed anytime.
Come on, Dennis, you were on a roll. You were on a roll earlier, Dennis. Come on now.
I'll be opposed anytime we take agricultural property and try to rezone it to rural.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Is there anyone else opposed to the petition at hand? With that, we will close that segment of the hearing. Does the board have any comments or questions? Can we get a motion?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I move that the board approve case number REC 15-0028 with the stipulations mentioned earlier.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments? Mr. Sims?
Ask Mr. Douglas to add one more zero on that.
REC 15-00028 is what I have. It's a what? Oh, okay. REC 15-000208 with the stipulations mentioned.
All minds clear? Got a motion and a second? All in favor? Unanimous. Mr. Kerr, can you present for the next item?
Thank you. Yes, sir. This is the final application this evening. It's a rezoning case 15-000210. This property is located in District 5 at 735 Henderson Mill Road. The request is to zone from agricultural to agricultural residential, and this is to create a 5-acre tract out of a 65.76-acre tract, and the intention is to develop it for a single-family home. You'll see here the future land use is rural residential, and the zoning on the map, again, you'll see is agricultural. And this is an aerial view of the property. And you'll see the notation there, the 5-acre tract is to be cut out of the bottom right-hand corner of the tract, and the remainder of that will be a little over 60 acres to be remained in one tract.
Thank you, Mr. Kerr. Does the board have any questions of Mr. Kerr? related to this petition?
Sorry, the planning commission did recommend approval of this petition.
Any questions? This time we will open public hearing for comments from those in favor of the petition. Please come and state your name and address.
Good evening. My name is J.B. Rutland. I'm a petitioner. And we currently have a 65.76 acre tract. This is zoned agricultural. We have a contract to sell 60.76 acres of that tract, leaving a 5 acre tract. There's a 10 acre minimum to remain agricultural, so we're asking that this be rezoned to agricultural residential to allow the 5 acre tract to be conforming to the zoning regulations.
Does the board have any questions? Thank you. Is there anyone else in favor of the petition? With none, we will close this segment to allow for those in favor of the petition. Is there anyone opposed to the position? Mr. Taylor? With no one opposed, we will close that segment of the public hearing. Does the board have any questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman,
Do we
I'll
have
make
a motion?
make a motion in your absence, since this is in the 5th District, that we approve. Case, I don't know if I've got the right numbers on my page here, but we'll try it. Case number REZ 15-000210 with the stipulations annotated.
Got a motion and a second. Any questions, comments? All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. With that, it is now time for citizen comments. And it's always interesting to hear the passion that the citizens bring to the boardroom. In respect of time, you'll each have 3 minutes. Please approach the podium to the left, my left, your right. State your name and address for the record, and thank you.
Mr. Chairman, again, my comments be made to you, and I appreciate just between me and you. My name is Dennis Taylor. I live in North Newton, kind of up there with kind of an A, but not quite an A. North Newton, kind of where it's an A at up there. You go too far this way, you're in Rockdale. Too far that way, you're in Walton. Go straight up, you're in Walton. Go straight down, you're still in Newton. Every time there's been a tax increase, I've been up here to speak again, and nothing has changed. It's not that citizens are taxed too little. It's that government spends too much. That's a comment made by Mr. Ronald Reagan. First, I'd like to correct what was in the 2 newspapers. The 2 newspapers supposedly were the source of the county finance. That 1.6 mills on a $100,000 home would only be $20 more in taxes a year. That's way off. 1.6 mil is $1.60 for every thousand of value. So on a $100,000 piece of property, you're going to be taxed on $40,000. 1.6 of that is going to raise your taxes by $64 for 1.6 mil. You take the 4,000 homestead off on a homestead property, you get a little break. It's going to be down $57.60. Mr. Chairman, raising taxes in Newton County at this time would be the worst thing this board could possibly do. With Baxter coming online, where do you think the jobs will go? Where do you think the homes will be built at? Morgan County will be sitting down there with a 9 millage rate. We will be looking at, when you put the fire, the hospital, we'll be looking at over 14.5 mills. They're not going to build here in Newton County. They're going to go to Morgan County. You cannot fix Newton County by raising taxes. You have to fix Newton County by cutting costs, getting out of this economic situation we're in today, and get revenue coming back in. The more you raise taxes, the longer it will take us to get out where we're at now. There is room to cut waste. There is money that y'all have that you could use. There's $5 million sitting in a splosh account for a civic center, sitting there collecting dust. That money could be used on stuff. There's $21 million worth of property down at Bear Creek that can be sold. Just forget that deal. Sell that property, put it back in the tax digest. We cannot run Newton County with the county buying up property and taking it off the tax digest, just like the Cousins School.
Mr. Taylor, we appreciate your passion.
Okay.
3 minutes are up.
Thank you.
Mr. Taylor, that invitation to sit down with me is still out there, Mr. Taylor.
Do what?
I said the invitation I sent to sit down is still out there.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Karen Brooks, 365 Hinton Road, Social Circle. I'm reminded of a statement in a movie, Cool Hand Luke. What we have here is a failure to communicate. 2 years ago, this board promised the citizens of Newton County that they would return the millage rate to 10.91 level. I was here with many other citizens to hear this news. What have you accomplished in the 2 years? Time after time, this board has voted to spend money the county does not have to help what appears to be select citizens of Newton County. Some in this room may be willing to accept that the millage rate is going up. I am not one of those, and no one else should be. Time and again, this board has been told to rein in spending. Time and again, suggestions have been offered. Enough is enough. You have proven to be incapable of being good stewards of our tax dollars. We need assurances, the citizens. We don't want a cap on certain expenses. We want something new. And we'd be willing to talk to you about that. But you have to go with an open mind. And I sure am hoping that you will do that. And we can communicate.
Thank you, Ms. Brooks. Of course, Mr. Buckner.
Yeah, of course, I made a mistake on the towers. Everybody make at least one mistake. 2 years ago, you said you'd bring the taxes down this year. And then last year, you brought them down 1 point. You, Douglas, said we ought to bring them down 2 points. And the rest of y'all said, no, we don't want to do that. You didn't need the money last year, but you didn't want to bring them down to where they're supposed to be. Now you got to go up instead of down. So what are we going to do? Oh, another thing. Am I wrong about that you're supposed to have a balanced budget by the 1st of July? Am I? No, I mean, somebody tell me. Keith Ellis told me that the books that's supposed to be balanced, it's got to be balanced by the 1st of July.
I believe our charter requires us to have a balanced budget.
About the first. Okay, are
I
you
did not say that.
Huh? So are we going to make it? Nobody's even talking about it. We're not going to make it. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Buckner, as always. Next, Mr. Brown.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Steve Brown. I live at 30 Steel Road, Covington, Georgia. If it's okay, I'm going to talk about something besides taxes for a moment. This is from my memory. Please do not take anything I'm saying as an attempt to misrepresent or anything anyone has said or felt or meant. At the June 9th budget discussion, Commissioner Maddox informed the other commissioners present that he had sat in on the Landfill Committee meeting and learned that there are only 6 years left on our only lined cell. From my memory, he asked if the other commissioners knew of this, and from my memory again, no hands went up. My impression was that it appeared to be news to the whole board. I think there are some critical lessons to learn from this. The fact that there are only 6 years left on that cell is critical information that will impact the timing and nature of decisions that have to be made. This information came from the engineering experts the Landfill Committee wanted to bring in, including one who wrote the book used in practitioner training for landfill operations. The board rejected a request by that committee for what amounts to pocket change compared to both the county budget and certainly the scale of the tens of millions of dollars and decades of life in a properly operated landfill. Further, the board seemed to think such engineering knowledge was unnecessary in stating its reasons to reject this small request. Fortunately, the fine and excellent professionals who designed the plan for our recently approved permit donated their time, travel, and expense to make a very comprehensive overview of this engineering information available to the committee. And Mr. Maddox serendipitously was there to hear it. As I hope is self-evident, learning the fact about the 6-year lifespan, such engineering knowledge is critical to making intelligent, well-informed decisions. You cannot make intelligent, well-informed decisions on any matter that requires more than a passing thought without having a sufficient grasp of the fundamentals of the matter. This applies to the landfill, reservoirs, water infrastructure, forms of government, purchasing, and the entire spectrum of issues facing our county. So please extend that concept and have an attitude that knowledge is better than ignorance in making decisions. Who knows what other incredibly relevant facts await to be revealed if we have the common sense to seek and find, ask and be given information that we don't know from those who do. In the particular matter of the landfill, I'm asking that you please reverse yourselves and approve of funding to that committee to allow them to bring in the expertise and materials they need to make the best, most well-informed, comprehensive, workable recommendation for the future of our landfill, our county, and our quality of life. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. One follow-up or one comment on that. That topic has already been scheduled for the next board meeting per Commissioner Douglas's request. And in full disclosure, my attendance at the Solid Waste Management Committee, primary purpose of that was there was about 12 or 13 teenagers at my home, and I chose to go to a landfill committee instead of babysit. So, but it was a very good meeting. Thank you, Mr. Brown.
I never make notes, but there's so much going on, I didn't have any choice.
Can you state your name and address, please?
My name is Samuel M. Hay III. I live somewhere in a swamp in South Newton County. You know, the only good thing that I know of that's come out of this board is that you have united the voters. You've brought the voters together. You're not very accountable to the voters. You know, we don't seem to be heard. So I would have to say that come election time, the voters are probably not going to be accountable to y'all. Talk about money just a little bit. This library expenditure has turned into a national joke. Who did the research on that? Who decided that we needed to give them $1 million or $900,000? Did anybody take a look at that deal? You know the details because I've sent them to you. If you're going to build a reservoir, you need to find somebody that knows how to do it. Because this guy over here, he's cost us millions of dollars, and according to all the resources from the feds, the state, and everybody that's weighed in on it says we're no closer than we were the day we started because of all of his erroneous information. I want to say that I've been following this Durden case for quite some time. I've never met Mr. Durden. I have no idea who he is. But what I know is he was wrong. I don't know who wanted their friend to take over the landscaping business, but it's cost the taxpayers, probably at this point, with this second case in process, at least $500,000. We could have bought landscaping for 6 years for $500,000.
Let me just say what everybody in this room knows. You don't know what? I said, let me say. You just said that we had
McGivney Road.
The fees have been nothing like $500,000. I said you ought to get the facts straight before you talk. Everybody in this room knows, that you don't know what you're talking about.
No. At least I haven't lost a half a dozen cases to the county and cost them over $1 million for nothing. White, you lost White. You spent $100,000 on
Mr. Hay, thank you for your time.
I'm not through.
Yes, sir, you
no,
are.
I'm not.
Yes, sir, you are.
I got 17 seconds left.
No, sir.
Are you going to put me down now? Come on.
Mr. Hay.
Yes. You're not going
This
to cut
board
me off and get
requires
away with it.
civility. You have crossed the line. You are attacking personally. Thank you for your time.
What? He attacked me. He said everybody in the room knew that I didn't know what I was talking about.
No, sir.
You didn't hear him say that?
Again, I appreciate your time.
I got 17 seconds left, and I'm
No,
going
sir.
to use it.
No. No, sir. Are you going to be civil and show respect?
I am civil.
Okay.
I
You got
was
17
right
seconds.
up until the point
You got
he
17
interrupted
seconds.
my talk.
You got 17 seconds.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I don't know, you people think I'm an idiot, right? I have made multi-million-dollar deals. I have made billion-dollar deals. I have experience. I don't come from nowhere. I have trained people to be successful and make a lot of money. But when I come in here, it's a disgrace the way I'm treated. I can handle it, but I just think you people ought to be really ashamed of yourselves.
Thank you. Next.
I want to say this week, Scott J. Over Star Street. If somebody wants to get up and speak, we're supposed to address the chair. Mr. Ellis told me that the last time I spoke. Addressing the chair, I believe, works both ways. If
I'm going to talk to you, you're going to talk to me. I don't believe it has anything to do with an interjection from anyone else on the board while someone is speaking, and certainly not from a non-elected official. Tommy Craig is not an elected official. In my opinion, he should have no say-so to come back with any comments that have been spoken from this microphone. He can give you legal advice if he wants to, and that's what y'all choose to do, and overpay him tremendously. Tremendously. There's still a lot of money that can be carved out here. There's SPLOST money y'all could be using. There's all kinds of things you could be doing to save some money. I don't believe you're doing it. I really don't believe the commitment is there. If you really want to get really damn serious about this, you go find the money. You do it in your business, Nancy, I'm sure. I'm sorry, the chair. I'm sure Mr. Sims. I'm sure everybody that's a business owner, Mr. Dowdy, there's a lot of people here that have businesses. When it hits the road, you gotta find it. Okay?
And Applewhite, going back to the tax matters, Mr. Mallett, you offered to meet with Dennis on the tax matters. Why not meet with some of the other people? I've seen a list this week by other people, and a list that I've compiled, that there are 20 items in our current budget that could either be totally wiped out or drastically reduced without cutting services to this county. If you total up those items, it comes to about $4.5 million. And those items could easily be cut by stopping the overspending and stopping the items that are totally unnecessary to be spent on to start with. So why don't you sit down with people that's got experience running $50 and $60 million corporations and budgets and ask them their ideas. There are a bunch of them in this county. Some of them are sitting back there tonight. One of them is standing before you right now. Every time I've suggested something, you cut me down to my toenails and act like I didn't know what I was talking about. I ran companies that could buy and sell you. Yes, I have. As far as dollars and cents value, yes. I'm talking about business-wise, not personally. Okay? I will clarify that. I'm talking about business-wise. I moved a $40 million business to Newton County several years ago. It took me 2 years to figure out that was one of the biggest mistakes I ever made, and I picked it up and I moved it. I saved my company almost $100,000 a year to move 17 miles down the road. Why? Because of taxes, fees, and regulations imposed by a board that was here before you, except for this guy right here. That needs to stop. Dennis is correct. These businesses are not going to come to Newton County. They're going to go where they can get lower taxes. They're going to go where they can get better labor. They're going to go where they can not have to pay for regulations that are totally ridiculous. We've got regulations out there now where a business comes to town, he's got to get your permission to come in here and get a business license. I've never heard of such crap. They should be able to go over to the courthouse and buy a business license and move into a building that's sitting there already existing as a commercial or industrial enterprise zone. They should be allowed to move in, no questions asked, as long as it's a legal business. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Applewhite.
Good evening. Sandy Spears, 5168 North Herring Street. First of all, I'd like to commend Mr. Douglas for his comment about the landfill. I think several months ago, when the landfill issue came up, before it was tabled in favor of a committee, we didn't have all the facts. The committee members, the Board of Commissioners didn't have the facts. The citizens didn't have the facts. I think having the Citizens Committee was a great idea because it's bringing in the facts that are needed to make an educated decision. I think that's a great idea. I commend Ms. Schultz for what she's doing with the Finance Committee. You got a tough job. You got a lot of stuff to get in just a small amount of budget. On the other hand, did we really look at the library? We gave $1 million now. I'm somebody who will buy books when there's no food in the house. I'm a believer in reading and education. But did we really get all the facts and do all the due diligence that's needed before that money was handed to the library? Why didn't somebody take a better look at that? That's my comment on that. I think the Citizens Committee are a good idea going forward. You're giving $1 million to the library, but then you ask Sheriff Brown to give up some money somewhere else. I want to be safe and secure. I don't want my house to burn down. I want to have police and fire when we need it. The library is a great place. It's a great resource for the county. But again, did we look at everything? I think going forward, whenever we have an issue, whether it's a library or a rec department or whatever, dig down, get your resources, get your facts, look at all the facts in order to make a good decision. And by all means, use your resources wisely. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pierce.
My name is Wesley Dowdy. I reside at 1479 Elks Club Road, and I just have one question. A couple of meetings ago, Mr. Craig divulged that the way the legal budget was set was whatever was left over, and that's how it was set. And I asked each of you if you knew the answer to that question. I later found out that the answer was no. So let me just ask this simple question. How do you expect us to trust that you've done all you can do when you don't even know how the legal budget is set for the county?
Thank you, Mr. Dowdy. Any other citizen comments? Okay, we'll close citizen comments. Commissioners, any words of wisdom tonight?
Thank you, Commissioner Henderson. Let me just reinforce my opening comments on the landfill. I hope that we can get a unanimous vote in the direction of going on our own when we do that at the next meeting. When you consider that, in effect, Green Hill is going to make us a trash can of East Georgia, East Metro, and that they were going to throw a few pieces of silver our way while they made millions, it just doesn't meet the common sense picture. Doesn't make sense. The residents over there in Spring Hill were justifiably upset. If you look at a trash mountain, I call them, if you want to see what one looks like, you drive 285 over to Moreland Avenue, and you'll see them on both sides of the road. And while they've got them all manicured and they look pretty, they still smell. You can still smell them, even on the interstate, going by at 70 miles an hour, you can still smell them. So I can only imagine if you lived across the road from something like that, what you'd have to put up with. Again, I hope that when the time comes, we can get a unanimous vote to go back to fall back on our local devices, the good people of this county, and do the right thing. And maybe we can extend that 6 years if it's just Newton County putting garbage in there. But it probably won't last 6 years if there's 25 counties putting garbage in there. So I'll be talking to other commissioners between now and then, but I would hope that we could get a unanimous vote to show solidarity with the people that live over there. And then we can work on how we're going to take care of the money that we're losing on the landfill and the recycle centers. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. John, first, you got one supporter here, and you've had this supporter from the beginning. Through this whole ordeal, it's been eye-opening. In the Spring Hill community, I have a lot of family, so I've heard from tons of people. I've been out to small town hall meetings out there and continually to go and continue to have some meetings out there. I guess Ms. Tanya's left. We've heard from people that use the river a lot. We're listening. Also through this ordeal, at least myself, I've had the opportunity to talk to other companies and try to find different ways of solving our problem. And our problem is not a 15-story trash pile. There are some creative ways, there's some green ways to get us out of the situation. So I look forward to working with the rest of the board, working with the citizen committee, to find a way that is less impactful to the Spring Hill community, less impactful to Newton County as a whole. We have businesses that are coming. We have Baxter that is going to be opening their doors in a few years, and it just doesn't seem right in my mind to be known as a trash county versus a business county. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. Mr. Schultz. Mr. Schultz or Henderson, any comments?
Well, I made my comments at the beginning, but I will thank Mr. Douglas for placing that item on the agenda at our next board meeting. I think it's time that we make a decision, and at this point it seems like the deal that we have is a distraction from us moving forward with where we need to go.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Vice Chairman. My comment is one that I'm going to talk about. It may not be too popular, but I've always known that when you tell the truth, sometimes it's not popular. But I just want to say, and I won't say in defense of our county attorney, there hasn't been any legal issue that has came up that he's asked when I say, hey, I hold my hand up and I want to do this. He's been directed by this board, the majority of the board, in order to do specific tests, do stuff, legal issues for us, either coming from out here around this board or when we go into executive session. Then there's been several times he have said that, I don't think this is probably the best thing to do. But I served at the pledge of the board, and I'm going to do what you asked me to do and do it to the best of my ability. So, I understand when people say, well, it costs a lot of money, but I don't think there's too much anything is free. We even went so far as, maybe not this specific board, to go back and look at the pay structure of the county attorney. And it was a typical pay structure of any lawyer in town. It was, except that he had to go out to the Lake Warner, do all the legal work there. And he had to do all for the Board of Commissioners. And he had a whole lot of people do legal work for who had money budgeted in their budget for them to do work. And they called and said, well, we have an issue at the jail. So we have an issue at the jail. He had to go out and defend that for us and oversee it. So he was doing a whole lot of stuff that he had to do because he was the county attorney. And then, I understand that the bill may be high, but hey, it's not free. Even when we impose those, so look at this, let's bring it on down to, or look at it, bring it down to what, 700 or 800,000 a year. You can bring it on down, but I tell you this: what you do when you have something going to jail, and you say the budget is a certain amount of money, what you gonna say? Well, just don't defend that. Just let them do what they want to do. Then there are people come right to the next meeting and say, well, say you spend too much money, even though he's a probable killer. done killed somebody or did something in jail, don't spend it, just pay them. So, so maybe, just maybe, you know, if we would just take a deep breath and understand that I do believe this board is doing the best that they can to do what we can to cut the legal fees, but I think we cannot cut out the legal fees. But I'm going to tell you this concerning J.C. Henderson. There was issues that I came up, that I started listening and said, well, I don't want to talk to him, get the county attorney opinion on this or that. And the very next meeting came back and threw me in the face and said, well, you didn't do this. You should have looked at this. Because I heard what you were saying. I said, well, I don't want to talk to the county attorney. And what came up was some issues that wouldn't have came up had I just went to his office and talked to him. So, you know, I don't mind being sued, but at least I would like to have somebody, at least in my corner, who give me the best decision that's necessary in order for me to make an informed decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Henderson. Certainly always appreciate your passion and the others. I believe we have the need for an executive session tonight. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Craig.
I've got one matter, if I can. I'm pleased to announce that today the Court of Appeals, Georgia Court of Appeals, ruled in favor of Newton County in a case that has been going on for a year or so. And I think I have promised you that we would win this case, and now we have. So, thank you.
Is there still the need for an executive session? There is, related to
Litigation and land acquisition.
Do we expect to vote afterwards?
I don't believe so, no.
Okay. We will adjourn to executive session. Oh, I'm sorry. Is there a motion? We'll recognize District 3, then District 4 as a second. All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you.